As we've learned the hard way in recent years politically, people in power, regardless of how negative the outside world might judge them, almost always perceive what they're doing as fundamentally right and necessary. Yes, they sometimes regret certain means they use to achieve their ends, but aside from the overt psychopath, no matter how black their deeds, power freaks never seem to judge themselves as evil doers. Even Hitler, as I'd learned in grad school, fervently believed that his most inhumane orders were fully justified and necessary for the advancement of his vision, his country, his projected world culture. And he perceived everyone who opposed him as sinister negative forces of decadence and chaos. Vaguely mulling over such notions, I followed Bernardo up the circular flight of stairs. I didn't know right then if I was going to attack him or laud him. All I knew was that this man was Mahi's twin brother, and therefore we were somehow already engaged. Some flow had brought me down here to this lake, and over here to this hacienda, and up step by step into this unique dome room that I was now walking into. "Do make yourself comfortable," Bernardo said in English, sounding friendly if somewhat distant. He moved gracefully, took a seat on the sofa, and indicated for me to do likewise. He calmly crossed his legs and let his expensively shod foot dangle city-style. Then he looked out over the lake, as if lost in some momentary trance or meditation. I sat down at the other end of the sofa, 5 feet distant from him, getting a good look at his craggy nose, thin, dry lips, slight but determined shoulders. He looked like a confident young Latino businessman ready for a casual chat. "I have a meeting in an hour in the city. I'm told you know my sister." "How would you know that?" I countered. "As a precaution for my sister's safety. She was under surveillance the day you met her. My team in Marin was dealing with many concerns at once that day." "What concerns?" I said. "Robbing museums?" Bernardo smiled slightly and leaned forward. On the coffee table in front of us was a beautiful covered ceramic pot. Reaching in, he came out with the jade carving. I gasped, assuming Bernardo had gotten the real thing somehow from El Maestro. Then I realized it was probably the fake piece. He held the naked genitals admirably, then placed the piece on the table in front of us. "Yes, this was our focus in Marin," he said. "So," I responded without thinking, "as they say, a la nueva." Bernardo jerked his head, caught off guard. "Why do you say those words?" he growled. "And I might ask," I countered, using my professor tone to bait him a bit, "why this strange fixation on priestly phallic stuff? Reviving phallus worship doesn't seem especially helpful. It's an outdated aberration. Balancing male and female is what humanity needs right now." "Bah," Bernardo barked back. "You speak like a goddamn eunuch. The female principle on its own has no power at all. Fuck all this goddamn a la nueva bullshit." He paused, catching himself almost shouting. "Yes, well, please you must excuse my intensity," he said, slipping back into his suave mode. "This matter is of such great importance. This artifact might carry ancient wisdom, essential male clarity and power." "But power to do what?" I pushed. "My essential role here," he went on calmly, "is to experimentally merge the ancient wisdom with our new tech advances, and then employ this power for the good of all. And Jack, you being here with me at this particular moment is no mere coincidence. Mahi has identified you as vital to what's happening this week. Therefore, I shall relate to you as the Nokalito presence." "Hey," I said, "I'm surprised that you're so superstitious." "This has nothing to do with superstition," he said back at me. "We are talking about a level of reality, a higher dimension of personal power that's already been scientifically verified in quantum equations. There's a great difference between genuine personal power and delusions of grandeur. And of course," I put in caustically, "people with those delusions usually don't know they're deluded." Bernardo didn't catch the barb. "That's exactly the case with Mahi," he went on. "Her superstitions, her terrorist activity, her paranoia, her belief that I wish her harm. Ask anyone around the lake, excluding her father, of course, and they will tell you how I have struggled since she returned from Europe, just to keep her alive. And now in these extreme times, my hope is that before she's shot down like a dog dead in the street, I can bring her here and protect her. This is why I sent Ursula to bring you to me. You can perhaps help." "I don't see how," I said. "Then perhaps," he went on, "this moment is the proper time to tell you something. I don't think you and I ever met up north. You were at Berkeley while I was at Stanford. But both Ursi and I were studying under your father. I was using a different name at that time. And after learning what he had to teach us, we made him an offer to join us. Way before his untimely demise, Ursi and I were already working down here, advancing his theories and fulfilling his vision at quite exponential levels. There are without question much higher forces than those Einstein identified. Surely you realize this truth. Within certain quantum realms, especially when dealing with consciousness itself, remarkable events are possible. When I am tapped into Ursi's equipment, I now live within 5 dimensions, and that 5th dimension is where the jade phallus becomes highly relevant. This is also where you can perhaps be of help, as Nokalito." "But come on," I reacted. "You don't actually believe in all that reincarnation nonsense." Bernardo reached again for the jade piece and inspected its various yang curves. "I am like you, Jack, a complete believer in scientific reality. But I've already experienced, as has Mahi, the fact that sequential ceremonial procedures can indeed evoke archetypal entities to act as a catalyst to access ancient embedded information and guidance." "That's quite a mouthful," I countered. "But what you're talking about exists only in science fiction." "But," he said, "you must admit that science fiction often serves as the prophet of science. But to the point. Mahi has perceived you as carrying the Nokalito charge. All I'm asking, Jack, is that you honor her perception and contribute by adding this possible Nokalito dimension to our equation." "And how would I do that?" I asked. "Simply by being present when we insert this ancient artifact into our system tomorrow. With or without your added dimension, I am now set to discover directly, via 7 electrodes embedded in microregions of my brain, how the interaction of ancient programming might impact human consciousness. I will be the first human being in the world to have this experience. But please, the experience will be most dramatic if Mahi is also participating. In the name of science, I ask you to do your very best to bring her with you to add her unique dynamic element tomorrow." I stood up and walked over to the sleek mahogany cabinet that separated the circular room into front and back, and without thinking, opened its middle door. Inside was a compressed array of electronic cables, hard drives, and a bunch of sophisticated metal boxes holding who knows what. And lining the inner back of the cabinet was some kind of thick gold metal plate. Bernardo appeared at my side, holding the jade carving in both hands. "You've gravitated naturally to the very heart of our system," he said, "where my brain's personalized algorithms of cognitive intent are introduced into Ursula's dedicated electronic masterpiece. That back plate is our local broadcast unit, set to inundate this room with whatever resonant content I choose. We also now have much more powerful broadcast systems for our more expansive intentions." He made a move, opened the cabinet right-hand door, and carefully placed the jade piece on a soft blue pad where 7 gold strands of curved metal were hanging down, encircling the blue-green shaft of the carving with a particular complex geometry. With my brain permanently wired for various dimensions of high-tech engagement, he told me proudly, the old headgear is now unnecessary. When this switch is on, my brain becomes connected directly to the data analysis and microwave broadcast computers down below. The computers identify the specific bioelectric configuration of my brain's verbal focus of intent, and that cognitive data gets morphed into a specific encapsulation of my thought flow and broadcast outward into whatever brains are within range. A single person or room with this unit, or a whole community, depending on the broadcast technology we choose to activate. Sorry, I said. I just don't believe you can do that." "All right, then," he said. "Allow me to demonstrate." Without hesitation, he flipped a master switch, and a bunch of colored lights came alive within the cabinet. "Now you can just close your eyes," he told me, "and I'll communicate a simple thought and its related emotion directly into your inner awareness." Although half scared out of my wits by the situation, I also felt powerfully intrigued to find out if all this might actually work. Bernardo closed his eyes, and I stood there staring at him, then turned and looked out across the rippling water of the lake down below. Everything right then felt perfectly normal. Nothing unusual was happening. There was just my breathing, and the physical feel of my body, and the usual word buzz in the back of my mind. Then I noticed something subtle happening on the surface of my skin, a feeling of warmth, well-being, peace. My eyes closed on their own, and my thoughts became quiet as the feeling increased, a subtle sense of contentment, and then some faint internal shift occurred, and suddenly I found myself experiencing several distinct words deep within my mind. The words seemed to be welling up under pressure and stimulating very slight, enjoyable movements of my tongue. I could almost see the written words, and then I was hearing them as well. And I already knew these words by heart. "Let us trust and love one another." Yes, I found myself thinking, trust, love. The inner energetic glow suddenly began to dissipate, but in my heart I could still hear what seemed to be my own voice. I opened my eyes and found Bernardo watching me, smiling confidently. "So," he said, "completely benign, yes? That was just very basic, delivered with minimal broadcast power. But now you've experienced for yourself how powerful and positive the effect can be. Several private friends in Washington are in position to deliver my tech to the military to entirely eliminate terrorism. Just the purposeful spreading of pure peace right into the heart of rogue governments and terrorist compounds. But don't you realize, I blurted out, that this whole system is just a super high-tech version of brainwashing? Jack, please. We're no more manipulative than media advertising, where everyone submits to a constant barrage of mostly negative, materialist brainwashing. The difference is that we'll be broadcasting only the purest spiritually grounded suggestions, based on universally held values of the perennial philosophy. Except that in your case, I pointed out, no one will know they're being subjected to brainwashing, let alone ask for it. Jack, hear me clearly. I've been guided by Spirit to create this system and perform this task. I trust impeccably in my spiritual source. So I pushed him, you're now the chosen one, ready to broadcast your own personal thoughts to influence the world at large. Yes, he said, I am willing to assume this responsibility if necessary. I intend to heal the ingrained sickness that permeates our world culture. Otherwise, as I'm sure you realize, there is no hope for humankind. Our outmoded amygdala will destroy us all. I'm offering you the chance to participate in a unique leap of science. Help us fulfill the prophecies. Make this lake and the world more peaceful, harmonious, and safe. As I took in the words, my gut impulse shifted toward action, toward just getting the hell away from this man. He might be brilliant and dedicated, but he was obviously deluded in extremis. No one should play God. Well, I finally spoke up. I admit I'm impressed by all this. So yeah, I'll come back over tomorrow. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Good, good, he said. I knew you'd see the light. You respond well to reason. He glanced at his watch. Ursula will take you back. Relax, enjoy your afternoon. Tomorrow morning I'll send a boat for you. Now I'm sorry, but I must leave. I have urgent business in the city. If you encounter my beloved sister, ask her to contact me immediately. The police want her dead. Her life depends on my protection. Until tomorrow then, he said, and without so much as a handshake, he turned and headed down the stairs and was gone.